Okay, it is 6 o'clock, and so I guess we'll bring this, well, I guess we'll say a meeting to order. We don't have an official quorum. So Ronnie, what I was going to talk to you about a minute ago, and we'll go ahead and just make the official request. If you could write up a, I don't know exactly what the process is, but I think now that we've had an illegal special called meeting, and now that we've had 2 meetings that have been missed by 2 known board members. One, we're still waiting on a decision through the circuit court as to whether or not, he's a board member or not. But Glenn Pritchard and Marlon Witcher have now not shown up to 2 meetings in a row. I believe that's about 50% of the meetings that Glenn has now missed, keeping us from conducting business. So I'd like for you to, if you don't mind, research the process, see who actually has to make the recommendation, but we need to go ahead and bring this up in front of the city council. I believe we've got some neglect of duty issues here, which under KRS, the little TVA 96, I believe it's 220. I'm not sure exactly, but KRS 96, I believe, indicates the reasons that we can are necessary that we have to, bring before the city council or the governing authority any of the charges necessary for removal. So if we're not, we got board members that aren't going to be participating in the meetings, and this is too important of a board, whether they agree with the politics involved or not, we still have business that is necessary to be conducted. So we need to go ahead and get an official request from the city council to take this up. And so if you could look into that for me, and let's see what the process is to make that happen.
I will. It's not going to be 220. I just got my book here. It's not 220 because it doesn't start till 5:50. So.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
You're talking about the statute that the removal one that talks about removal of members.
Right.
Okay. I'll find it. But
I just don't know what the process is for making that happen. It's silent to that. I just don't know how.
Yeah, it is silent. I think it's silent to that. So I'm not sure which one it is, but I'll find it and then just make reference to that, I guess.
Right. We've not had good.
760. 760 is one. Talks about the terms of vacancy and removals. So, but it doesn't give no guidance on what you do.
Can you read that to me real quick? I just want to make sure we've got that straight.
Only part, I guess, that would apply. Section 1 doesn't apply. It's talking about the appointment and so forth. Number 2 says any member of the board may be removed from office upon a vote of a majority of the members of the governing body of the municipality for efficiency, neglect of duty, misfeasance, nonfeasance, or malfeasance in office. So obviously, any action would have to be the majority of the members of the governing body, which in this case would be the city council.
Right. Okay. So I believe I don't have the definition of nonfeasance in front of me, but I believe we may have 2 potential violations here, both neglect of duty and nonfeasance. This is a requirement. You've been appointed to this board, and this is a requirement that you took an oath to uphold your duties to this board, and both of those I believe have been violated, which I believe is one of the indicators of nonfeasance, but I know it's for sure neglect of duty. It's pretty much obvious on its face.
Well, I mean, let's face it, it's just more of that political posturing that we talked about. I mean, come on now. If I didn't go to work half the time, I'm not going to have a job.
Right. Sorry.
Bottom line.
Okay. So no need going through the agenda, the approval of agenda and any additions. We can't approve anything anyway. We didn't have any minutes at the May meeting last month because we didn't have a quorum for last month. But let's go ahead and talk about the COVID-19 response and the results of that.
We've still got a report that would be of interest to people that are watching on TV. So I'll run through this stuff. And when I get to it, there's a couple of things that we're legally required to do before July 1st. So since I can't get you all to approve it, I'll probably just go ahead and do it and then put it on the agenda for another another meeting for you all to ratify those actions, because I don't think the fact that we don't have a quorum would mitigate our need to comply with the law. So again, this is a slide I've used before. You know what we started back in March. We're still waiving disconnects for non-payment. We're still waiving late payment fees. That doesn't, we're forgiving them. We're just, we're forbearing on those right now. One of the things that's new that we're trying to do with is deciding when to reopen the lobby. We had been in April and May to be in lockstep with the water company and with Farmers Rural Electric on the lobby situation. So once one did, all would do. But since then, I think a couple of weeks ago, perhaps, at least a week ago, Farmers has opened their lobby. But the water company has not, and they don't know when they are. So we're kind of stuck between two peers, and we're trying to decide when to reopen our lobby. When you look at the main reason we closed the lobby is to try to limit the opportunities for the small team we have to be infected by people coming in. I don't know about you all, but I've been out a little bit in grocery stores and what have you, and it doesn't seem intuitive that we would easily get people to wear a mask before they take in our lobby, because I've been a lot of places where that's not taking place. We have worked on the lobby trying to put up barriers, plexiglass barriers, but we're still not sure when to reopen the lobby. We don't infect any of our customers that come in from us, and we have a really small team here that we couldn't afford for the virus to take hold through our little 46-person team. So we're not open yet, and we're not sure when we're going to, and any ideas anybody has to help us with that, we're all ears.
Well, I mean, I've been to several businesses that have signs on the door saying that they require for you to get service of any kind that you might wear a mask.
Yeah, I have too, Libby, but I've also been in and seen that they're not compliant with that. So yeah. It's a tough decision, especially small businesses you go in that are needing the business. They probably feel bad about throwing people out if they don't have a mask on. They're bringing in business. So it's not an easy thing to do.
Right.
Then, of course, this slide is the one I've been showing you ever since March, and it's looking pretty good. The left-hand side here is the normal number of people who pay their electric bill before the due date, which is about 88%. We projected, or actually our projection was way down here when I first showed this to you, but because reality is that about 76% of the people are still paying, so we've raised our projection up. And this is also interesting, during the grace period, we're getting another 21%, so we got 97% of the people that are still paying their bill. And so this small little gray block there represents the 3% that aren't. And we hope that it won't be written off. There's no way to tell whether we got to write it off until we start doing disconnects, I guess. But actually, this, compared to our peers, this is looking pretty good. We're very proud of where our customers have managed their affairs through this. Then comes the other issue that we don't, again, this month, the board is kind of taken out of decision-making power on this because the governor has ordered that we continue compliance. Now, we have been in multiple meetings with TVA. A lot of our peers are getting damaged badly through the forbearance, and we thought TVA would pull their federal agency card and tell the Commonwealth that they were going to have to use their power to dictate that their LPCs could go ahead and, once their local boards decided to do something, but PK has chosen not to unsheath that sword. So, in fact, they told us that if we start doing disconnects against the order presently in place from the governor, that they won't defend us. So we're not, we don't see any reason to recommend to the board that we take on that problem, especially since the slide I just showed you, it's not as bad as we were afraid it was going to be. And then the evolving economic conditions and that stuff is you've seen before. This is a new slide. Every month we get an update on this, and as you all know, we're giving this. This is the amount of vouchers from community relief. So for June, we're going to see about $4,700 worth of vouchers. As you all know, we just decided in December to start giving them $4,500 a month. So we've gotten to the point now where everything that we're giving them is being turned right around and comes back to us through vouchers for people that need the help. So that seems to be working exactly like you all thought it might. Okay, these are the people. I think it's good to keep up with this. These are the people that are likely going to be helped by the forbearance, the people that are newly unemployed. Back in March, the Barron County unemployment rate was 5.9. In April, it tripled to 18.5%. The whole state for April was 16.6%, so Barron County and the state pretty close to each other. For May, the Kentucky unemployment rate is 11%, and the Barron County numbers haven't been posted yet. Later this week, they'll be posted. But it's improving some. The unemployment rate is improving some. But from everything I can read in the Courier Journal, the number of people who still haven't gotten their first unemployment benefit check from March is staggeringly large. So there's still a large group of people that need help out there. So how many of them are there? This slide is, this blue block here is the people on the fixed rate, residential fixed rate. These are the number on the variable rate. And then these are the small GSA 1 customers on the fixed rate, the small GSA 1 customers on the variable rate. If you add all four of those up, about 350 customers. So it's a little less than 5% of our customer base is in arrears on their accounts through this pandemic. Much better than we thought that it would be back in March. These are the amounts. The amount still solidly about $250. The reason this one over here looks weird, the number of people that are above $500 in arrears, is this blue block is one GSA 2 customer. So one medium-sized commercial customer is in arrears, and that's why this looks so big. The number of regular customers, residential and GSA 1s that are over 500 is small. So again, when we start doing disconnects again, the average amount that people are going to be in trouble on is going to be between $200 and $300. We owe a lot of that to the team. The team that normally works in the lobby and sees a lot of customers coming in is spending their time on the phone trying to talk to these customers that are in arrears individually and making sure they know about community relief and LIHEAP and that have money available, and they're doing a great job, I think, of helping people keep this amount down. It doesn't mean that the day we finally decide to end the forbearance, there will be some people extremely angry about it and will claim that they hadn't heard anything about the need to eventually pay that account, but it won't be a large number of people. It may be noisy, but there won't be a large number.
Well, is that one GS, are they in the middle of, have they filed a bankruptcy? Have you gotten a bankruptcy notice, or is it just still kind of hanging out there as an unpaid balance?
It is a restaurant. I'd rather not say the name.
Oh yeah, I'm not going to ask you. I was just wondering if there was any opportunity for to recoup that, or if they had filed bankruptcy.
Not one yet, but it's just somebody that's behind on their bill.
Okay.
Are we allowing people to make partial payments or just whatever they can on their bill, or do they have to have bill in full?
No, we're taking whatever we can get, and
Okay.
that's from having that shock, of
Yeah.
being a massive amount when
Yeah.
we
Okay.
This is a new slide. TVA has been surveying all the LPCs just to give us a feel for what everybody's doing. 41% of the LPCs are like us and continue to suspend non-payment disconnects, although half of those are planning to resume disconnects by the end of June. So most of them are in states that aren't like Kentucky, that have an order from the governor not to. They've got the latitude, and TVA is fully supportive of them returning to normal, because a lot of the ones that are suffering really big losses are also using TVA's credit program, and TVA is forbearing on collecting the wholesale power bill from them. So there's a lot of credit issues growing on that. 3 to 6 months is the typical plan for allowing customers the amount of time they're going to allow them to get back to normal on their accounts. 50% are saying that their liquid accounts were 1 to 2 times normal, 25% 2 to 3 times, and 7% are greater than 3 times a normal amount of uncollectible.
Where does ours fall in there?
I knew you were going to ask that, and I asked Melanie to give me that, and I forgot about it, and she did too. I think it is about 1.5.
No, okay.
24% of the LPCs have reopened their lobbies. 76% have. And here's where we are volumetrically. We started seeing the damage in March. In April, it was pretty obvious that we weren't selling as much as we have for years. In May, it was dramatically lower, and June still has a week left. So I don't know that that's really informative. It's going to be lower, but I think it's going to be up in the 18, 19 million kilowatt hours. It's still going to be a pronounced volumetric decay in our sales. So these are the latest, the graphics that I show you have to be based on some assumptions. So this time they're based on assuming we end forbearance in the middle of August, give people 6 months to bring the account back to current, kilowatt hour sales loss continuing through 2020, and maybe coming back to normal in 2021. Of course, LSC has already ceased production and practically ceased buying energy from us out there. It looks like our bankruptcy loss is going to be less than we first projected. It's probably going to be $51,000. Of course, we're very hopeful that somebody new will be taking over that site, and we'll get some sales going again. We're not planning to ask the board for a cable rate increase until at least January the 1st. And we'll also, hopefully, this fall, be doing our regular annual review of the effectiveness of our retail electric rates. And again, try to move a little bit more of the charges into the fixed charge with no net increase in rates. Okay, so this is
Billy. I got a question real quick. Is there any way to tell if LSC had been on the volumetric rate, what that number would have looked like?
No, because they were buying a product from TVA that was not really part of our retail scheme. All we were really getting from them was kind of a wheeling charge, a delivery charge. Because they were buying a product from TBA that allowed them to get a real big break for the willingness to interrupt with them. They on 5 minute interrupt?
Yes, correct.
Yeah. They had a system where TBA told them they needed to lose 4 megawatts. They had to do that in 5 minutes in return for a big break on the energy charge. So all we were getting from them was the wheeling charge, which significant, but so no, I really can't answer. I wish I knew the question.
Yeah, that's okay.
So this chart is the one I've been showing every month that wraps everything together. With everything below the zero axis being losses. So, you've got the $51,000 loss to LSC, and then this gray stuff is the cost of not disconnecting people for not paying. And then we've got decrease in sales as well up here, the orange. And all of this stuff above the line are enhancements to our revenue. The blue block that's consistent across there represents the 3.1% bill credit from TBA. And that's really saving our bacon here, especially if we don't get a replacement for LSC in that building out there. And then the positive gray blocks up here are the assumption that we'll end forbearance and people will start paying that back. So when you wrap it all up and you look at the free cash we had back in March, which was about $980,000, and how it's decaying through the pandemic, and then how we're going to recover, we're looking at a year from now being pretty much back to where we are today. And that's a function of non-volumetric rates more than anything. That and the 3.1% bill credit from TBA. Okay, now this is one of those items that I warned you about. There was a law passed about 4 or 5 years ago that said municipal corporations like the Glasgow Electric Plant Board had to file a budget each year with the Commonwealth Office of Local Government, and it has to be in by July the 1st. So we got 2 items. One is this fiscal year's budget, which needs to be altered, needs to be amended to reflect reality instead of these projections we made. This time last year, we projected operating income of 29.3 million. Well, the pandemic came along and we had 27.2. We also had drastically reduced O&M expenses and depreciation, other things. I would normally ask for a motion to approve this amended budget. Changing net assets, we projected 1,113,000, but we're going to experience 1,189,000. It's not a giant difference, but we are required to file that. So I'm telling you just for information, since it's in the real meeting, we're going to file this before July 1st because the law requires us to, and then I'll just have to put it on the agenda. These agendas are going to get bigger and bigger the more months that go by where we don't really have a meeting. And I'll just have to ask for forgiveness for doing this because the law needs to be complied with. And then this next item is just the same action for next year for fiscal 2021, where we're taking a much different guess at what our operating income is going to be and all of our other expenses. And this time next year, we'll be doing the same deal, trying to rectify it to reality. So this is another thing that actually needs a motion, but I can't get one tonight.
So let me ask you a question, Ronnie, and this is really more for you. It seems like we've got 2 competing laws here. We've got a law that says we have to file the budget rectification by July 1, but at the same time, we can't promulgate a budget rectification from our board without board approval. So do we need to go ahead and do that? I mean, either way, seems like we're going to have some issues here because, we've got a couple of board members that are laying out over, some sort of political issue. So, what do we do about this? I mean, which law do we violate here because we don't have a quorum?
Right. We're either going to be non-compliant with the state or, is there any way that in extreme measures you can take action without a quorum? And I think I already know the answer to that, but this is ridiculous. At what point can we actually start conducting business again?
I think you're going to have to sort of a choice of two evils, which one's the worst. And you certainly want to comply with all the requirements of the law. The laws on both sides, both issues. But as far as reporting, I think you're going to have to report that and maybe just have to file an amendment if that's what you got to do. Once you get board approval, because the board can only act, based on the majority, which would in the quorum, et cetera. But I'd say if the I'm not sure what laws are requiring it, because Bill is more familiar with that as far as the filing of these reports, but you don't want to do anything that gets you behind the eight ball with the reporting agencies that could mess things up further.
Yeah. Okay. So your recommendation is to go ahead and file it, even though we may be in violation of our own policy, and potentially the little TVA Act when it comes to, what business we can conduct or can't conduct. So it's kind of putting us in a very tenuous and precarious position here. We have to choose which law to violate, basically.
I'm not sure what statute Billy's referring to that requires the filing. He's certainly more familiar with that because he's done it so many years. But I don't know if there's any, without looking that up, I don't know if there's any exceptions to that or other options, for late filing, such as you do with taxes for a request for an extension. If that was possible, that's certainly the better option. If there's an ability to request an extension for the filing of those budgets, I don't know if that's an option or not.
I can't quote the KRS, Ronnie. It was House Bill 1 about 5 years ago. And I'm sure, obviously it's been turned into some sort of KRS now or a statute of some sort. And I don't believe there are exceptions in that. But I'll get you a site tomorrow and you can take a look at it.
Okay.
So Ron, as our board attorney, what do you suggest we do?
Well, it's sort of hard to say without reading that statute, but if that's a requirement, I don't know the effects of not filing that budget. Who are you filing it with, Billy Ray?
State Department of Local Government.
Well, when can you have an answer for us? Because that's supposed to be filed by July the 1st. And we obviously have, like I said, the political stunting that prevents us from conducting the business that we need to conduct. And everybody knew that this was the end of the fiscal year and we had a lot of important matters on this agenda.
Yeah.
So they chose to neglect their duties. I took an oath and everybody else did too, but I intend to uphold my part of it.
Ray, if I understand you correctly, the budget that you filed last year, making adjustments to, so that the budget this year you file, if you need to make adjustments to it at the end, you can, right? That's what you're doing.
The statute requires that we file it and that it has to be balanced. So in June, you have to do what I've just done here on this slide to substitute actual numbers. And they knew that was coming because they provided a column for it here on their template. So you got to do that in June to make sure you don't, you're not guilty of exceeding the budget that you got approved last year, that you submitted to them last year. So you got to send an amended one for the end of this year, and before the beginning of the next fiscal year, you got to send them your dream budget for that year.
But you have the opportunity to correct that at the end of the year. Your budget predictions, you have an opportunity to correct that, which is what you're doing, making the appropriate adjustments, right?
Right.
30th is the end of the year.
Yeah, at the end of the year. So it's like whatever you file, you get to fix it before it's.
No, whatever I file is fixing the budget that I filed last year at this time.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying that, but so you're going to fix that budget to reflect what actually has happened, which has happened over the course of the year with board approval. And this budget you're going to file now would also be able to be corrected at the end of next fiscal year based upon what activity takes place.
To be amended, but the law says we've got to file it.
Yeah.
Before the fiscal year starts.
Do have the opportunity to amend it down the road, even though it might not be actually totally correct.
Okay.
But at the time they're filing, so it's.
For you to look it up, Melanie just called in with the site. It's KRS 65A.
65A. Okay. I'll look to see if there's any kind of exceptions, but I think, my first answer is the sort of choice of two evils, and we don't want to do anything that's going to impact EPB overall by not complying with that requirement, especially when that requirement can be fixed at the end of the fiscal year, like you're doing, as you said, you make amendments or adjustments to it.
Okay. Well, we just need to figure that out, whichever one. I can't believe we're in this position. I mean, this is an integral part of our duty. And
so, Ron, when can you have a solid, your recommendation as our attorney, when can you have that for us?
Well, it's going to have to happen tomorrow because I'm going to be gone for a couple of days. So.
Okay. Well,
no, July 1st is the day, right, Billy Ray? So.
Yes, that's the beginning of the new fiscal year.
Okay. Unless I will research that statute, but unless my initial, you gotta, one of the two's got to happen. And I still would be of the opinion, the choice of the lesser of two evils seems to me to be the filing, because you can correct that filing. You got an opportunity to correct it down the road.
Well, I guess my thing is I just don't want to be in non-compliance of anything with the state. We've already had to attend classes for violations of open meetings, blah, 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 blah. And the people responsible for that didn't even show up to the class. So, I'm not trying to have the EPB or the board members punished anymore for things that we are not responsible for.
Right. And the filing I'm talking about would be to file what Billy Ray is suggesting to be filed. I mean, that seems to be the lesser of the two evils to me. I don't know what the ramifications are if you don't file it with the state. That's what I was going to try to check into.
Yeah, I'd appreciate that then, if you can get us an answer as soon as possible.
okay.
And if you file it, and you don't get board approval, you may just know you got to have an amendment down the road. But surely there's got to be some exceptions to, especially with everything else that's going on in the world today.
Well, I would.
This is something that shouldn't even have to have an exception, though. This is just, like I've said a million times, political stunting, holding up the business that needs to be conducted.
Well, I would say there's probably not been a provision at the legislative level that addresses hissy fits, but we'll see.
Yeah, exactly.
Ready for me to proceed, Mr. Chairman?
Ready to proceed. Thank you, Billy.
Yes, sir.
This next item is just pure information. It doesn't have to be approved, so it's perfect for this informal meeting. This is just a projected cash balance beginning and ending using the budget that we already submitted. Of course, this projected cash balance is not free, unencumbered cash. That includes all kinds of debt service reserve funds and bond requirements, but that's the number of everything wrapped up together. Okay, another big item that needs to be dealt with, this is not a legal requirement, it is an audit requirement. We agreed some number of years ago to do write-offs biannually. And so that means in June and December, we show you all the list of the people who have failed to pay their bill, and you all the board would normally authorize us to move these accounts from the active column to the written off column. And we can't do that tonight. So Melanie would just have to tell the auditor when they come in, the reason it's isn't done is that the board wasn't here to authorize it. But it's a fairly normal the list that we have here has some unusual things in it, but it's overall kind of a normal list because it's $55,000 or so, and just about anything we do, it seems, we wind up with about $10,000 a month, and this is for a 6-month period from June of 19 until December of 19, or November of 19, I guess. So it's pretty normal, but if you look through it, you see a residential customer that got us for $830 because we added an amount owed from a previous bill on the account, and then the customer left us with the new bill and without the old bill paid. And we had another big residential customer, $1,080, who came in and set up an account, never paid a bill. So that's 2 bills and the final bill. That's pretty much what our exposure is to people that never pay. And I've got a link that goes through the whole list. You all know that drill. It was also in your package. So it totals about $54,000. And last year, same period of time, we had about $58,000. So if it weren't for these unusual ones, and there was a big bankruptcy in there also from a GSA2 customer that inflated that as well, where we didn't have any security at all. We were completely exposed. So it's about a normal write-off list, and I guess it'll just have to be on another of the agenda again next month because the minutes need to clearly authorize us to move this stuff into the write-off column.
Okay.
Libby asked for the solar research project to be on the agenda again, and I have dutifully put it in here because I still firmly believe that this is research that needs to be done. It's fairly inexpensive, $13,000 for us to learn a whole list of things before we thought about putting a really big investment in under the TBA flexibility program. We need to learn every one of these things before we start talking about a big project. But Libby, I appreciate you asking me to put it back on the agenda, but it seems that
Hey. You know, I'm really excited about that project. You know, I mean, and technically, we did approve so many months ago that so much $10,000 a month go into a fund for that purpose specifically. So, I mean, at the end of the day, my personal opinion, I mean, I feel like that really doesn't even require a vote, but I appreciate your conscientiousness. But, you know, at the end of the day, I was hoping that everybody's integrity would shine through and they would be here like they were supposed to be to actually have some productive discussion. So anyway, we can move on, I guess.
Well, let me ask you, Billy, and I'll have to refresh my recollection here, but isn't this below the limit that has to come before the board? Or are you just feeling more comfortable if it does come before the board?
I'm authorized to spend up to $20,000 without board approval, and it's easily. I mean, this is the size of project with 3 or 4 bucket trucks every couple of days. But I've brought it before the board, and now it just seems I'm ethically bound. I feel like,
Yeah.
Since I brought it up, and we want to put it right out here in front of the building. It's not going to be something that you can miss. And the board, when we've had a full board meeting, has given me the indication that they're not interested in doing it. So that's a long way to answer your question. Yes, I could do it without board approval, but no, I don't feel like the way I have handled it that I can back up and do that and feel good.
I understand where you're coming from completely. You know, I mean, I guess when we, you know, look at, you know, how people talk about their bills and how they have a hard time paying and that, you know, I mean, the end result of this project will give us massive amounts of knowledge as to how to move forward and what solar that we could produce. You know, we can find, like it says on the slide, we can find the amount of solar that can offset the demand, you know, and all that does is save our customers money. But, you know, like I said,
every day we put this off, it's just one more day where we can't take advantage of the, you know, the credits that we're going to be able to pull off this solar.
Right.
So.
I mean, this, yeah, right.
It will be a time to do it, that's for sure.
Okay.
Okay. Well, then I just have reports, our general, the general list of things to report on. We'll talk about how we did in May, talk about the July fuel cost adjustment. I'll show you the CPD ledger, the coincident peak demand ledger of how we've been doing on collecting enough money to cover the charge from TPA. I can show you the proposed insurance renewal from the Kentucky League of Cities. Excuse me. Again, I'm going to wear this thing out, but we've already agreed to commit to the contracts that the programming committee recommended. I just need to get it in the minutes that you all agreed to that, and I can't do that again tonight. Then I still feel like we owed a response to, or at least informing the board, so I can get it in the minutes that the chairman did properly respond to these open meetings complaints, just so we can close the file on that. We showed the complaint coming in, and it'd be nice if the minutes showed a conclusion of that. So,
can I ask you a question? When does insurance in force expire with the KLC insurance package?
July 1.
Well, what are we going to do about that?
exactly.
Well, luckily, the minutes reflect 3 or 4 years ago when we agreed to take a multi-year proposal from them in return for them not increasing the rates, which is kind of a term of art because our bill is higher, but somehow the rate is applied to other multipliers that are the value of our property. You know the drill. We're not paying exactly the same thing, but we should be okay on that, except that was over at the end of this month. And so this proposal they have for next year and three years after that does need to be dealt with. I mean, I'm not going to let us go without insurance. We're going to pay them, but it's another problem from not having a real board meeting because it's a big number. I'll show it to you, close to $200,000.
Yeah. And listen, without any type of long-term contract in place, we're probably going to be paying a substantial premium over our previous premiums. Just because we don't have that long-term contract in place. So we're kind of going, it's like a month-to-month deal at this point. So
my plan is just like the budgetary things. My plan is to pay the invoice and sign a new multi-year agreement and then seek your a ratification of that action at a real meeting because exactly what you said, Mr. Chairman, especially with, I need to be really careful here how I say this because I'm involved in this, but one element of the insurance is public officials' liability coverage. And there's likely to be, it seems reasonable to assume that there's going to be a big claim on that. And that without us signing this offer right now before that happens, we're liable to find ourselves without an offer to acquire that insurance. So we need to close this deal now while it's on the table to keep the plant board from paying either an exorbitant rate or getting told that nobody wants to write public officials liability for this board with,
So once again, all the childishness and irresponsibility could possibly cost us a bunch more money that we should not have to pay.
not going to respond to that.
I will answer you, yes, Libby. And unfortunately, the extra cost is borne by the customers of the EPB.
Exactly. So,
Yeah.
hey, everybody needs to get on board and do what they're supposed to do.
Okay. Thank you, Billy.
Okay, real
Thank you,
quick.
Billy.
Again, this is the deal that I try to get you to look at every month, where this is monthly load factor. Every month, where of course this is 2020. Every time this line is higher than the other lines, it means we're paying less for power. And so we did great in March, we did great in April, we did great in May. June, we've had one really hot day. The rest of them not so hot. So if we don't get some hot ones over the next week, then we're not gonna have a great load factor for June. But we've done great the rest of the year so far. The fuel cost adjustment for July the 1st is very small, 0.07 cent increase. Obviously, TVA is not having to buy a lot of fuel because they're not making a lot of power because people aren't using a lot of power. Our success was difficult to find in May with predicting the peak. There's 3 blue lines on here, so we predicted the peak on 3 days. And look at the huge delta between a normal May and what this May was. So as far as load factor goes, all those lines bunched up together without having one jumping way up for a peak is a good thing, and that's why we had a really high load factor. But this line right here represents the actual peak day, and it was the day before we called the 3 peak days. So we missed it by, it's going to cost us about $4,000 because we missed it by about 400 kW. Not a big mess, but it's the kind that impacts this chart right here, which shows the status of the account. We're still about $15,000 to the good. We collected $15,000 more in the little additional 25 cents on there than TVA charged us. But if things don't turn around in June, we're going to go way in the negative because right now the difference between the actual peak and our predicted peak is really large, like $50,000 large. This is the status of the people on which rates they're choosing. There's practically no change in there from last month. There's very little activity on people moving from one rate to the other. This is the insurance package of that. Will have to be again on a subsequent agenda. We paid $183,000 last year. The proposal was $195,000, and the big difference is in workers' comp. There's a $30,000 increase. We've got 2 active claims right now, and those things change your modifier for 3 years. In 1 year, one of those claims will age out, but the other one's going to be with us for 3 more years. General liability went down, thankfully, $20,000. Automobile, about the same. Property, up about $2,000, increasing in value of some of our property. And public officials' liability is down a little bit. That's unlikely to be down next year. But 195 is the number. That is, they have been for over a decade now the best place for us to get our insurance. They've been very responsive, and they also give us good advice on hazards that we have that need to be corrected. They do regular inspections. So I'm going to pay this invoice and put it on a subsequent agenda for the board to approve.
Do you pay that annually, quarterly? You just pay an annual fee, just annually?
Pay one lump sum annually.
Okay.
Program and committee stuff, y'all saw last month. You've seen it multiple times, and you'll have to see it again. And then I asked Ron to think about, of course, we can't act. Right now, the last time we acted in March, we chose to do all future EPB meetings via Zoom until further notice. And I thought we might be able to change it at this meeting and go back to something more normal. And I asked Ron to research it and see what we could do. But you don't have enough people to do it. So we're going to have to meet by Zoom again the next time. Because that's what the minutes say. That's all I've got.
Well, I think there's a couple of things I'd like to talk about that deals with new and expanded industry. I think we need to go in, there's no way to go into a closed session because we're not in a regular meeting. So I think we need to discuss this just while we're all together. If get Cody to cut the video feed for a minute and let's have a discussion about some of these things, and then we'll. Yeah.
That's all you got left. You don't have to. I mean, I don't know how he wants to end it on the air, but there's no.
No, but you know, these people sitting there anxiously waiting. It's the continuing saga of the Glasgow EPB.
Okay, you're back on.
Okay, so thank you all very much. I appreciate it. Cody, thank you for taking care of that for us. I thought it was important to go ahead and discuss some of these items. Lots of good things coming down the pipe. Want to make sure that we're prepared for those, make sure we don't do anything to mess that up. With TVA being such an integral part of our economic development and our economic prosperity here in this community, I want to make sure that some of those things were talked about, addressed, make sure that we don't have any issues, coming up that could foul any potential economic development our way. So
absolutely. And just like when we talked with Ron Bunch in closed session a few months ago, yeah. I'm still of the opinion that Glasgow's future is super bright.
Oh yeah. And it's just looking better. I mean, this week it started looking much better. So,
and I'm so excited.
Yeah, a lot of good things. So, as long as yeah,
I just want to be sure your people realize that may be still with you watching. It wasn't a closed session because we're not really having a meeting. I don't, somebody to think that we didn't do it properly because we did. You guys can talk privately all you want, since it's not a quorum meeting. So.
Sure, and I just listen. You loose lips sink ships, and I just want to make sure that we're not, promulgating any information out there that's confidential, doesn't need to be talked about. But
yeah, I'm just saying that's fine. You don't have to jump through any hoops to get to what you guys just talked about. That's all I'm saying. Yeah. People realize that it's not an official meeting.
Well, the thing I want to make sure everybody understands, it's ours to lose, and we're in control of our own destiny at this point. And if we want our community to be prosperous and vibrant and ensure that we do things, even at this level, this low level of being on this board of this utility company can have profound impacts for our economic development, just because all of this is intertwined. And I just want everybody to understand how intertwined those things are, all the way from TVA to this local utility to manufacturing within this community. It's like a web, and if one is affected in a negative way, then everything gets affected all the way down the line. So we have an opportunity at this point to be able to really make some profound changes in this community for the better. And I just want to make sure everybody understands that it's ours to lose. And in particular, it's this board's to lose if we make some wrong moves. So we just have to be careful with what we're doing. Anyway, I guess that's it. No need for an adjournment since we didn't have a meeting, but thank you all very much. And hopefully in our next Zoom meeting in July, we'll be able to have a quorum and go ahead and conduct some business that's is starting to really pile up, and it's going to get very important. It's going to start costing us quite a bit of money, I believe, if we don't start doing some things very quickly. Yeah. So if we can try to get a special called meeting in order to make some of these things happen, then we'll try to do that too. So I just need to make sure, Billy, you understand, or I'm sorry, let me understand the importance of making sure that some of these things are done timely and make sure we don't fall into the penalty phase on any of these things.
Yeah, please. because it's time to start putting some progress before politics, fellas.
Okay. Thank you all very much. See ya.
It's good to see y'all.
Nice to see you later.
All right.
Bye-bye.
We'll talk to y'all later. Bye.